Usually, when you think about a financial ledger, there's this expectation of like perfect cold precision.
Right, yeah, it's like
Th-
engineering or something.
Exactly. You look at the columns, you line up the debits against the credits, and the numbers just balance out.
It's the language of math, you know?
Yeah, and an accountant can just point to the bottom line and say, well, there is the absolute truth. It's supposed to be clean.
And that's comforting because it feels completely objective, like it's totally visible.
But then you step into the world of Amanda Park's gritty thriller novel, A Life for a Life, which, by the way, is also known in some editions as Sled and Redemption. And suddenly that perfectly balanced spreadsheet is just dragged completely through the mud.
Oh, absolutely. It becomes the absolute definition of a zero-sum game.
I mean, we're looking at a narrative where the ink in the ledger is literal blood.
Yeah, and the bottom line is measured entirely in human lives.
Which is exactly why we're jumping into this stack of sources today. We've got excerpts from Park's novel, some really fascinating podcast audio files analyzing the book, a bunch of deep dive blogs, and even some conceptual images.
There's a ton of material to unpack here.
So our mission for you on this deep dive is to explore that precise point where street-level violence collides with white-collar corporate corruption.
Right, we are going to unpack the anatomy of a conspiracy, the illusion of control, and ultimately the devastating personal cost of vigilante justice.
And in doing so, we're going to distill exactly how a so-called perfect system just completely falls apart.
Which really gives you a look at the hidden mechanics of both the criminal underworld and, corporate America.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Picture a foggy, rainy night in North Philadelphia. It's like 3:15 in the morning.
Classic noir setup.
Totally. And hidden on the third floor above a quiet laundromat called Kwan's 24-Hour Express is this unmarked steel-reinforced door.
Which, to anyone just walking by on the street, probably looks like an empty storage unit.
Right. But this is a place called The Vault. Tell us what's actually behind that door.
So, the Vault is a high-stakes, invite-only underground gambling room.
Okay.
It operates as this ecosystem completely insulated by its own brutal set of rules. I mean, it is heavily secured, and tens of thousands of dollars in illicit cash change hands there every single night.
Wow. And sitting in the shadows down the block, inside a silver sedan with the headlights killed, is our protagonist.
Malachi.
Yes, a young guy named Malachi. And he's waiting with his tech guy, a character named Jin, and a mountain of a man named Terrell, who pretty much serves purely as the muscle.
Right.
Now, I know Malachi isn't just there to rob a poker game, though. What is he actually after?
The motivation here is deeply personal. Malachi wants a physical master ledger held by the cage manager inside.
A guy named Raymond Cruz, right?
Exactly, Raymond Cruz. Malachi knows this specific ledger will prove his brother, Travis, was actually framed for drug possession.
Right, because Travis is currently sitting in a maximum security prison for a crime he literally didn't commit.
Yeah, and Malachi sees this book as the only key to getting him out.
So the stakes are literally life and death. But, as I was reading through the preparation for this heist, I found myself totally confused by their tactics.
Oh, the breach.
Yeah. So Jin executes this incredibly stealthy, quiet, digital hack. He taps into a local junction box and puts the outside security cameras on a 15-minute delayed loop.
It's a very sophisticated move, highly technical, and completely silent.
But then, immediately after that, to actually get inside the room, Terrell uses a heavy hydraulic breaching tool to literally blow the steel door off its hinges.
Right, they just blow it up.
The metal shrieks, the explosion is deafening. I mean, why would they bother with a quiet tech hack if they're just going to announce their presence to the entire neighborhood with a massive explosion?
It seems like a massive contradiction, for sure.
Yeah.
But it actually comes down to understanding the real-world mechanics of emergency response times.
Okay, walk me through that.
Well, think about what happens if Jin were to just smash a camera with a baseball bat, or cut the wire and let the digital feed go black.
I assume an automated alarm would probably trigger immediately.
Exactly. A dead feed instantly pings a private security dispatcher.
Oh, I see.
And that dispatcher then immediately routes the police to that exact address. It's an automated instant response.
Right.
But by putting the camera feed on a loop, the dispatcher looking at the monitors just sees an empty, quiet hallway. They are completely unaware anything is wrong.
Okay, but what about the giant explosion? Doesn't everyone hear that?
Blowing a physical steel door off its hinges is incredibly loud, yes. But remember, they are in a gritty industrial neighborhood at 3:15 in the morning.
Yeah, that's true.
So the crew is relying on human behavior. A sleepy neighbor has to wake up, groggily figure out what the noise was.
Debate whether it was a gunshot or a car backfiring.
Exactly. And then finally decide to actually pick up the phone and call 911.
So they are effectively trading digital immediacy for physical chaos. They know the digital alarm is instant, but the human alarm clock takes time.
Right. And managing that psychological response window buys them a crucial 10-minute operational window before the police even know a crime is happening.
That makes perfect sense when you put it like that. But the tragedy of this story is that the second they breach that door and step into that 10-minute window, the carefully calculated plan just completely evaporates.
Yeah, it falls apart instantly.
It devolves into a complete bloodbath. What exactly happens inside the cage?
The violence is just instantaneous. Malachi shatters the reinforced window of the cage with a crowbar to grab the ledger.
Okay.
But a guard named Javier Jenkins reaches for a hidden shotgun.
And Terrell just reacts.
He doesn't even hesitate. Terrell fires a heavy .45 caliber round, hitting the guard directly in the throat.
Oh my God.
It is pure chaos. And then you have Raymond Cruz, the cage manager, the guy who actually planted the drugs on Malachi's brother.
Right, he's cornered.
Yeah, he's begging for his life, promising to stay quiet if they just take the money and leave.
Which puts Malachi in an impossible position.
Malachi knows the brutal reality of the world he's operating in. The money in that vault belongs to a cartel.
Of course.
If Raymond lives, word hits the streets, and the cartel will be hunting Malachi's family by sunrise.
It's a horrible calculus.
But in his mind, there is literally no way around it.
So Malachi just says no witnesses, and Terrell reverses his grip on that heavy steel crowbar and brings it down on Raymond's skull with crushing force.
Yeah, it's incredibly brutal.
It's a messy, absolute overkill of a crime scene. And when detectives Vance and Lynn arrive later, they read that crime scene like a book, don't they?
They do. I mean, when police walk into a scene with that level of sheer overkill, crushing a skull with a blunt instrument rather than, a clean shot, they immediately know this wasn't a professional robbery.
Right, because professionals use suppressed weapons.
Exactly. They minimize the mess and the noise. This scene just screams that it was a revenge hit, driven by deep personal emotion.
And because it was driven by emotion, they make mistakes. Which actually brings us to a really fascinating human flaw in this supposedly perfect system.
Oh, the lighter.
Yes. Think about building a multi-million-dollar corporate IT firewall. You set up two-factor authentication, biometric scanners, totally encrypted data.
An impenetrable digital fortress.
Right, only to have the entire system completely compromised because one employee left their admin password written on a sticky note attached to their monitor.
Which happens way more often than you'd think in cybersecurity, honestly.
I bet. And in this story, the sticky note is a dropped lighter. We see Malachi experience a massive adrenaline crash when they get back to the getaway car.
It's a very real physiological response.
Yeah, you know when you almost get into a bad fender bender on the highway? 5 minutes later, you're safe, but your hands are shaking so badly you can barely hold the steering wheel.
Yep, that's exactly what happens to Malachi.
His body dumps all that tension, his fine motor skills degrade, and as he reaches into his pocket, he unknowingly drops his lighter deep into the seat tracks of the silver sedan.
And it's not just some generic lighter from a gas station either.
Right.
It's a custom silver Zippo, a gift from his sister, deeply engraved with his exact initials, M.A.V. Malachi Austin Vance.
Leaving an engraved piece of personal property at a double homicide is just catastrophic.
We're the worst-case scenario.
So they have to get rid of the car. Jin takes it to an auto detailing shop on Hunting Park Avenue to torch it. But then, the weather completely derails them.
The irony is just incredible here. Jin douses the interior, lights it, and leaves it to burn.
But it's raining.
Right, Philadelphia is getting hit with a massive pouring rainstorm. The rain is coming down so hard it actually puts the fire out before it can fully consume the interior of the car.
Unbelievable. So when the police find the abandoned car, it's barely even singed.
Yep.
And the forensic techs pull that silver lighter right out of the seat tracks. Detectives Vance and Lynn run the initials, connect Malachi to his brother's arresting officer, who is Raymond Cruz, and instantly the police know exactly who they are hunting.
Because the police are now closing in fast, Malachi is forced to urgently examine the stolen ledger while they are hiding out at that auto shop.
And this is the moment the narrative makes a massive pivot.
Huge pivot. Malachi opens this blood-stained book expecting to find the names of local drug kingpins or cartel distributors.
But that's not what he finds at all. He's flipping through these pages and he finds a small gold-embossed seal stamped into the paper.
An iron anvil with the initials LS.
Tell me what LS stands for.
It stands for Liberty Structural.
Wow.
Yeah, he realizes that the puppet master behind this entire violent underworld operation is his own former boss.
The CEO of Liberty Structural.
Exactly, a man named Marcus Collins.
Okay, hold on. I need to pause here because this blew my mind in the reading, and I want to make sure I understand the actual logistics of this crime.
Sure, it gets a bit complex.
How in the world does a wealthy, untouchable corporate CEO use a smoky third-floor gambling den in North Philly to launder money? I mean, what is the actual mechanical bridge connecting a high-rise boardroom to a place like the Vault?
It is a brilliant, albeit highly illegal, buffer system.
Okay.
Let's break it down. In major commercial construction, a corrupt CEO like Collins sometimes needs to pay off local union bosses.
Why would he need to do that?
Well, maybe he needs to ensure there are no labor strikes, or maybe he needs city inspectors to look the other way, because he's using uncertified scrap steel on major city projects.
Got it.
So he's skimming tons of money from union pension funds to do this.
But a CEO cannot just write a corporate check to a union boss with bribe in the memo line. The paper trail would trigger a federal audit instantly.
Exactly. The money has to be untraceable cash. So Collins hired phantom contractors.
Like shell companies.
Right. Fake LLCs with names like Anvil Logistics. Collins, as the CEO, writes legitimate-looking corporate checks to Anvil Logistics for quote-unquote consulting work.
So the money leaves the corporation looking like a standard business expense.
Then, the people running those fake companies cash the checks, take the dirty corporate money directly to the vault, and intentionally gamble and lose large sums of it at the poker tables.
Wait, they literally sit there and lose the money on purpose?
Yep, they just dump it to the house. And Raymond Cruz, the cage manager, takes a house cut for running the game.
Wow.
Then, he pays the rest of that money out to the corrupt union bosses as casino winnings.
That is wild. So the money goes in dirty from the corporation and comes out with a perfectly clean, legitimate alibi for the union bosses.
Exactly. The gambling den is essentially acting as an unregulated bank for corporate crime.
And Malachi's brother, Travis, was an auditor at Liberty Structural.
Yes, Travis was just doing his job. He found the paper trail connecting the missing steel and the pension funds to Anvil Logistics.
He was getting too close.
Way too close.
Right.
So Collins ordered Raymond Cruz to plant 5 kilos of narcotics in Travis's trunk to silence him permanently and destroy his credibility.
So Collins basically built a system where he reaped all the financial rewards of the corruption, but offloaded all the physical and legal risk onto disposable blue-collar workers.
It's the ultimate insulation, really. The boardroom stays clean while the streets bleed.
But that insulation is about to burn down because before Malachi can even fully process this massive boardroom conspiracy, their hiding spot is compromised.
Yeah, the police track them to the auto shop, and a violent SWAT raid hits them.
The escalation here is incredibly rapid. A police armored vehicle uses a hydraulic ram to smash straight through the garage door of the auto shop.
And Terrell refuses to surrender, so he just starts firing directly into the ballistic shields of the SWAT team.
It's pure desperation. They know they have to get out of there. Jin jumps into a rusted Chevy Blazer sitting on a hydraulic lift.
Terrell lays down suppressive fire and jumps in.
And Jin slams the truck in reverse. He drives it backward entirely through a patched cinder block wall just to escape into a back alley.
Armed with the truth from the ledger, but now actively hunted by heavily armed police, the crew makes a desperate tactical decision.
Right.
They decide to bring the violence of the streets directly to the CEO's pristine suburban fortress.
They ditch the Chevy, steal a heavy dually truck, and head straight for Chestnut Hill.
The contrast here is so sharp.
It really is. We shift from an underground bunker and a greasy auto shop to a literal multi-million-dollar estate. And when they arrive in the freezing mist, their infiltration is utterly ruthless.
Oh yeah, Terrell shatters a security guard's kneecap just to breach the gate.
And then they drive the truck across the manicured lawn and smash right through the glass French doors of the mansion.
They are forcibly dragging the brutal, unforgiving rules of the vault into the quiet suburbs. The CEO's illusion of safety just evaporates the moment that glass shatters.
So they corner CEO Marcus Collins in his grand marble foyer. They zip-tie Collins, his wife Elena, and their 10-year-old son Elijah to heavy mahogany dining chairs.
It's terrifying.
And Malachi forces the bleeding CEO to sign a formalized confession to clear Travis's name. But, hold on, I actually can't get past this part.
What do you mean?
Well, we've been rooting for Malachi this whole time, right? His core motivation, saving his innocent brother from a corrupt system, is noble.
Sure.
But in this scene, he is actively terrorizing a 10-year-old kid. Terrell has a hunting knife and is sadistically taunting the child while Malachi forces the terrified CEO to sign this paper.
Yeah, it gets really dark.
Hasn't Malachi just become the exact monster he's trying to stop?
It's a deeply uncomfortable moment, and I think it highlights the central tragic paradox of vigilante justice. You're absolutely right.
I mean, he's traumatizing a family.
Malachi is using the exact same tools of fear, leverage, and coercion that the corrupt corporate system used against his family.
He's convinced himself that the ends justify the means.
Exactly. He rewrites the ledger to save his brother, but he pays the balance with his own humanity. He is inflicting real, permanent psychological trauma on an innocent child to get what he wants.
And the ink on that confession barely has time to dry before the police scanners they brought with them go crazy.
The state police tactical units have tracked the stolen truck to the estate.
And they breach the mansion.
The physical breach of the house basically mirrors the legal and moral consequences that are finally crashing down on them. A massive firefight erupts in the foyer.
Flashbangs go off. The mahogany is splintering everywhere.
Terrell fires blindly into the smoke but takes a SWAT volley to the shoulder.
And in that chaotic, deafening crossfire, Malachi looks over and sees 10-year-old Elijah convulsing in silent tears, just absolutely terrified.
It's a turning point for him.
It's like a switch flips.
Yeah.
Malachi realizes the absolute reality of the violence he has brought into this family's home. He actually drops his weapon,
He dives over the desk.
shields the ledger with his body, and surrenders to the police. He gives up his own freedom to save the child from the crossfire and preserve the evidence.
Which brings us to the cold, hard reality of the legal system. In the aftermath of all this violence, we find Malachi in a freezing, cinder-block interrogation room sitting across from Detective Vance.
And Detective Vance drops a bomb on him. He tells Malachi he is facing life in prison for the murders at the gambling den.
Right.
But wait, Terrell was the one who pulled the trigger and shot the guard. Terrell was the one who swung the crowbar and killed Raymond Cruz.
That's true.
Explain the law here to me. Why would they charge Malachi with murder if he didn't commit the act of killing?
It revolves entirely around a legal concept called the felony murder rule under Pennsylvania law.
Okay, what is that?
The underlying philosophy here is strict liability and deterrence. The law dictates that if you choose to participate in an inherently dangerous felony like an armed robbery,
You legally assume the risk.
yes, you assume the risk for any deaths that occur as a foreseeable consequence of the environment you helped create.
So it literally doesn't matter who pulled the trigger. If you help create a deadly situation, you own all the bodies that hit the floor.
Precisely. The state wants to heavily deter people from committing armed robbery in the first place.
Wow.
The law absolutely does not care about Malachi's noble motivations regarding his brother. You cannot legally trade dead bodies for a corporate financial ledger. The state has him dead to rights.
And under the crushing weight of that reality, the crew fractures. Self-preservation kicks in.
Of course it does.
Terrell snitches to the district attorney to save himself, though he actually still gets the maximum sentence anyway. Jin takes a 10 to 20-year plea deal for his role.
And Malachi.
He accepts 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole.
It's the ultimate brutal accounting transaction. Malachi literally traded the rest of his own natural life to buy back his brother's freedom.
He accepts the life sentence to ensure the federal government actually uses the ledger he fought so hard to secure.
Did it actually work, though? Like, after all of that, did the system do anything with the book?
It ironically did, but only because the system was violently broken first. A specialized legal task force called the Conviction Integrity Unit takes possession of the physical ledger.
And they use it to launch a massive grand jury investigation.
Exactly. They indict CEO Marcus Collins, they dismantle Liberty Structural entirely, and they fully exonerate Travis.
So the physical receipts did exactly what they were supposed to do.
They really did. Travis receives $150,000 in state restitution, which is $30,000 for each year he wrongfully served in prison.
He moves down to Atlanta for a legitimate, clean accounting job, right?
Yep, and he promises to visit Malachi at the state penitentiary, SCI Phoenix, every single month.
It really underscores the core theme of the story.
Yeah.
You know? The men in the boardrooms sign the papers and move the invisible money, but it is the people on the street level who bleed for it.
And who ultimately have to sacrifice everything just to balance the scales.
Yeah.
And as Malachi sits in his cell, hearing the heavy steel doors lock behind him, he actually feels peace. He traded his life for his brother's. The ledger is officially closed.
It's a haunting ending.
It really is. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a chilling modern implication to mull over. We spent all this time talking about a physical, leather-bound black book.
Right.
Malachi was only able to expose this massive corporate corruption because the evidence existed in a physical binder that he could literally steal.
Yeah, he could break a window and take the receipts.
Yeah,
But think about how this translates to our reality today.
exactly. As we rapidly move toward a world of entirely digital finance, offshore shell companies, and encrypted blockchain ledgers, I mean, you can't exactly take a crowbar to a crypto wallet.
No, you definitely can't.
If the evidence is just a string of code on a decentralized server in another country, physical force wouldn't have helped Malachi at all. Does the evolution of digital finance make it impossible for everyday people to ever expose the truth?
It really makes you wonder if the modern era is effectively making blue-collar fall guys permanently disposable.
It's a profound question about the future of accountability and justice. Definitely something to think about the next time you hear someone talk about a perfectly balanced ledger. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.